Padme Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Om. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Good morning. Welcome to the service. It's good to see so many at the temple. That doesn't mean we don't like all of you watching on YouTube, but it's good. This morning, the order of service will be a meditation and Dhamma talk by Sai, who's been a great friend of the temple and has graciously agreed to be a speaker about once a month. And we look forward to his visits from far away. It takes about 2 hours driving to get here. So, and then after the Dhamma talk, there'll be questions and answers, and then a brief bit of chanting. So, Sai?
I think I can speak loud enough.
Hmm?
I think I can speak loud enough.
Okay.
Yes. Good morning, Venerable Sirs and their friends in Dhamma. It's good to be here on a Sunday. So let's start with a brief meditation, and we'll conclude with loving kindness meditation, and we'll transition to a little bit of a dialogue on Buddha's teaching. So as you are seated there, you can adjust your seating position, and the Buddha advised that when you meditate, try to keep your back upright so you can stay alert a little bit, and you can put your right palm on your left palm and gently touch your thumb to each other. And if you're sitting in a chair, you can place your both feet flat and rested. And if you're leaning against the chair, you can move forward a little bit so you can stay alert. As you get ready, you can gently close your eyes as if you were to sleep, and try to watch your mind for a few seconds. You may notice that our mind is always busy. And just like you're trying to work with a toddler or a young child, just be gentle with your mind. You might need to repeat the same instruction multiple times. And I'm talking from experience, right? When you try to guide a child. So do the same to your mind, and usher your mind to your nostril, where you notice the incoming breath and outgoing breath. As you get ready, as you keep your eyes closed, seated upright, rested palms and legs, let your breath flow naturally. And when you're ready, take a deep breath, fill your lungs with fresh air. The long breath, and release it gently. Take another deep breath with intention, and feel the pressure on your chest as air fills your lungs. And when you breathe out, just relax your body, relax your mind. And this time, when you take a deep breath, notice the cold air passing through your nostril. As you breathe out, you notice the air is slightly warmer. All you need to do is notice the change in temperature. Take a couple more breaths, as you become more aware of your incoming breath and outgoing breath, you can let it flow naturally as you normally breathe. As you breathe in and breathe out, remain aware of incoming breath. As you breathe out, be mindful of outgoing breath. Our mind continues to wander. Pick on a topic, think about tomorrow or yesterday, just like a child. And be gentle with your mind. Every time you catch your mind wandering, bring it back to your breath. And make a mental note when you breathe in. You can actually whisper to yourself, breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. As you breathe out, again whisper to yourself gently, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. If you notice the breath is longer than usual, you can label it as a long breath comes in, long breath comes in. Dighang va assa santo, dighang assa samiti pajanati. A long breath comes in. Mindfully, I take a long breath in. As the long breath exhales, exits your body, mindfully be aware of that long outgoing breath. Dighang va passa santo, dighang passa samiti pajanati. Without controlling your length of breath, remain mindful of the beginning of incoming breath to the end of incoming breath. Beginning of outgoing breath to the end of outgoing breath. If you find your mind is calmer, acknowledge that as well. You may also notice other stimuli, maybe the smell, maybe the sound. Whatever sensation that you experience in the moment, observe it mindfully and continue to breathe in and breathe out. Stay with that awareness of incoming breath and outgoing breath. If you're paying attention to sound, you can ignore the breath. Just focus on hearing, hearing, hearing. If you're focused on sensation of your body, whether it is a hardness that you're sitting on that you notice, or subtle pain on your back, or an itch somewhere in your body, without moving, just take your mind to that spot and observe as a child, a curious child. You may notice those sensations continue to change every second. If it is a pain on your back or an itch, if you continue to observe the sensation spreads, it gets sharper, more prominent. Sometimes it moves from one location to another. And you also notice sometimes it just disappears without any effort on your end. That is being mindful about our physical sensation. If you find no other sensation to observe, go back to your breath and notice incoming breath and outgoing breath. Remain diligent and focused. Notice your mind has been calmer than a moment ago. Notice now you are more aware of your body. You might feel a little weight, a little heaviness, or lightness. Whatever sensation that you experience, just observe as they are, without analyzing or interpreting them. Mindfully breathe in and breathe out. Mindfully notice sensations as they are. As you remain mindful of your breath and physical sensations, let's generate loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity toward ourselves and others. Please repeat these words in your mind and try your best to feel them as you repeat them in your mind and generate kindness, loving kindness and compassion toward all the living beings, including yourself, and practice this metta bhavana for a few minutes. May I be free from hatred. May I be free from ill will. May no harm come to me. May no trouble come to me. May I take care of myself happily. May I be free from suffering. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. Like myself, my parents, my grandparents, all my ancestors, my children, siblings, cousins, all the relatives, my teachers and students, my friends and family members, my co-workers, employees and employers, all the human beings that I'm in touch with, all the human beings in my town, city, state, country, and the world. All good people, all people, those who are misguided, rich and poor, strong and weak, educated and not educated, all the human beings in this entire world, all the living beings in this entire universe, large and small, without legs, two-legged, four-legged, multi-legged. Born and unborn beings, may they all be free from hatred. May they be free from ill will, jealousy. May no harm come to them. May no trouble come to them. May they be free from adversities in their lives. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no trouble come to them. May they all take care of themselves happily. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May they all be well, happy, and peaceful. I seek forgiveness from those whom I offended, intentionally or unintentionally, mentally, verbally, or physically. May all forgive my mistakes. May they all forgive my mistakes. I forgive all of them, those who offended me, intentionally or unintentionally, mentally, verbally, or physically. May they all be well, happy, and peaceful. I forgive all of them. I forgive all of them. You may open your eyes when you're ready. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Again, Venerable Sirs and their friends in Dhamma, I hope that was a good practice for us, and I hope you start your day, your week, with that little bit of practice to ground ourselves in the Buddha's teaching and reminding ourselves that we are in charge of our own actions, right? So I have a topic, but I would like to invite the audience to propose a topic or tell me something that might be interest to you. But I'll just give you a little bit of a timely information. Right now, I think in a couple of weeks, I think Bante's, all the monks will be starting their rain retreat, because it's the month of July. Am I right, Bante? Did you already start? Vasa starts in this Poya, right? This Poya is coming up. So that the time this rain retreat is, it sounds not very good in California because we don't get any rain here. We don't need to retreat here. We need rain, right? But in South Asian countries like in Nepal and Sri Lanka, and a lot in northern India, this is the time of heavy rain. So a lot of rain happens, monsoon, right? And this is the time where monks are observing 3 months of rain retreat. They stay in the same place for 3 months, starting Asala, the third full moon day. So Vesak, the Buddha's birthday in May, and June was the second full moon day, and the third full moon day, that's when you start observing rain retreat. And if you are a bhikkhu, that means you're 20 years old and you have received higher ordination, then you are considered a bhikkhu, a monk, a full monk. And those bhikkhus are required to observe this 3 months of rain retreat. And it's a sort of a good tradition that Buddha had long time back. And during this time, monks are supposed to stay in one place and reflect on how they're doing with their life, and take a topic, take a object for meditation practice. And they go to, sometimes they go to more rigorous practice than other time. So I like to think that as a way for us to, where are we in terms of our practice? How are we following this Buddha's teaching? Is it really helping us in everyday life? Because if you learn about the Buddha's story, Buddha's life story, he wanted us to live a meaningful life. You can't think of Buddha helping us, because this story might help. This young man, he's a business guy. He's busy, businessmen, they're busy. And he was attending one of the Buddha's talk, and Buddha gave a long discussion on how to become enlightened. And this man was sitting in the back, waited until the talk was over, then he went to the Buddha and told, Bhante, I have a busy life. So you gave a long detail on how to practice meditation and how to achieve enlightenment. I don't have time for that. So can you just help me to get to whatever, that enlightenment and Nibbana is, take me there. And Buddha, knowing, his sort of ignorance, it's not a place that you go. But enlightenment is not a city or a state you travel to. Even it is, you still have to make your own effort. So Buddha gave an explanation. Where are you from? He said, I'm from Savatthi. So this was Rajagaha. So let's say 2 cities, and maybe more here. Like, I'm from, where are you from? He said, the guy was from riverside, okay? And the Buddha said like, okay, it's quite a drive for you, right? Bhante? It's quite a drive to get to riverside. So tell me, how do I get to riverside? Oh, you have to either take a train or a bus. If not, then you have to take a car, get on the freeway, and you hit the 60. Once you are on 60, keep driving all the way. You're heading toward Indio. So once you see that there's an intersection, 210 and 60, that's where you are now, in the riverside. So the Buddha asked, so you gave me that detail, do you think I'm in riverside now? Oh, no, you have to travel. You have to physically take a vehicle, get on it, and then you have to avoid traffic, avoid accidents, so you get there. So you know how to get to your city. So the Nibbana is the same thing. I Tumhekicang atapang akataro tathagata. The Buddha explained, I give the direction. You have to follow the path to get to that destination. So, and that is what makes Buddha different from other teachers, right? We don't look up to the Buddha other than for aspiration, for inspiration. We don't look up to the Buddha as a savior because he cannot. I mean, if he could, I'm sure he would. He would definitely save. And that's what he did when you look at the Buddha's early stories, his struggle. He would travel hundreds of miles just to give a little talk to one man or two people, because out of compassion. And Buddha had that compassion. And that's what Bhantes do too. So I know this Bhante is from Bangladesh, that Bhante is from Sri Lanka, and that Bhante is from Sri Lanka. They dedicated, and I lived in that life for 16 years. And I have met with mostly non-relative people. Maybe I gave a couple talks to my relatives, right? I spent a lot of my life, my monastic life, dedicating to other people even I don't know or any related to, because that's what Buddha set example. So of course Buddha had that kindness. He gave us direction. But in terms of practice, it's up to us. And there are so many simple teachings that we can follow. And I like to just open with how do we stay in course? One of them my favorite part is having that confidence, Shraddha. That's what makes the Buddha very unique and Buddhism very unique from other religion, other teachings, because in other religion you have faith. You give in to certain supernatural power or a god or the god we subscribe to. And if you do anything, then, and I hear about, I don't know how it works, but you go and, confess. Tell what you did, and sometimes there are, the priest or the pastor or the father who would listen to you. I don't know if they forgive you, but they would listen to you. It's a good practice. You're very self-reflective. But in Buddhism, that's not how it works. You have to correct. Confession is one thing, but you have to stop repeating the same mistakes. And that's why we have some ground rules for lay people, for Bhantes. So during the rain retreat, they go and meditate. And I remember when I was in Sri Lanka, even in Nepal, my teacher had a very clear schedule for us. We meditate in the morning, after lunch we have a little studying time, and evening we meditate again. And especially during rain retreat, there's a lot more rigorous. We do more often. And for us, for lay people, we can do similar practice. And Buddhism is not only for monks. There's nowhere mentioned that. And Buddhism is constitute of 4 groups, right? Bhikkhus, the Bhantes, and there are nuns, bhikkhunis, and lay practitioners, female and male practitioners. We call Upasaka, Upasika. And I want to say, if you want to get that title, Upasaka, you have to have some qualities. And I joke about this when I used to give talk to Sri Lankan community. In Sri Lanka, when you're born Buddhist. Did you know that? You're born Buddhist. It doesn't matter what character you might develop, what personality you may have in the future. In their national ID, there's a place called religion, Buddhagama, or Buddhist religion. So I used to joke, how did you born Buddhist? Even Buddha was not born Buddhist. So you cannot be born as Buddhist. It's more like you have to acquire it. you have acquired that title. Upasaka, it's a beautiful word for lay practitioners, lay followers. The very first one is check your character, check your conduct, right? That's where we look at the precepts. And precepts are just to simply keep you out of trouble. And I was driving, like as you can imagine, on the freeway. I'm sure everybody has that. I was on the carpool lane, somebody just like cut me over. I was going 75 miles per hour. What do you want me to do? Fly? So somebody didn't take that right and crossed the double line and just came in front of me. Almost I ran into him or her, I don't know. So the precepts is to help you check your conduct. And you can name it as 5 precepts, right? You're trying to be mindful of those 5 precepts to keep you out of trouble, breaking rules, breaking laws. And in Buddhism, we are more concerned about not just a ticket or getting into imprisonment, getting incarcerated, but more like a samsaric journey. Because I always like to think when you are in this journey, some people ask, is there a past life? Does it matter to you? I believe in one. If you don't believe in one, that's totally okay. You don't need to fully, I don't know. There are times that people ask, I don't know if there is a past life because I have never seen anybody. Well, there are some crazy kings during the Buddha's time or even before his time who conducted experiment to find out if there is a life after. Have you heard of any of those stories? Okay, here's one. This king, I forgot the name, it will come to me. He bribed a guy and told, I'm going to give you X amount of money, but here's the deal. You're not going to get the money, your family will get the money. We're going to put you in a metal chamber and kill you in there. It's sealed. There's no way to, escape. And you'll be killed, but your family will get a big compensation for that. And they agreed, yeah, sure, my family will be happy, so I'll die. Right? Get a great sacrifice. But the deal was, you have to come back and tell me where did you go after you died. So this is in suttas. You should look into it. There's some crazy kings that did a bunch of experiment, and the king ran that experiment. The guy was killed in the chamber. Nobody came back. Of course, the king had to fulfill the promise, give some, compensation. That was one. And this king ran many experiments to find out what happens to people after you die. Nobody came back to tell, I was born in such and such place. I'm here. Nobody came back. So some people use that as an excuse not to believe in the life after. Some people think that's not how it works. Regardless, there's one sutta, if you are interested, it's a very nice sutta, Kalama Sutta. This is where Buddha explained about what are some biases that you should avoid. And when you study Buddhism, when you try to be more reasonable person. And in that sutta, Buddha explained, it doesn't matter whether you believe in past life or not. If you know engaging in good deed alleviates your life, alleviates your struggle. You're not troubled, you're not getting a ticket, you're not getting into fight with others, you're not hurting others. That alone is enough to engage in good conduct. If you believe in the next life, of course, that's much better because now you are trying to refine your life here. And that's what I see. As humans, you're not here in this state, not California state, this state of life in your thinking, in your understanding, because you're just born today or born in this life. This is a refinement of many, many lives, right? If you compare human life, you drive around this couple streets here, you will see sometimes homeless people, sometimes people getting into drugs, getting into trouble. So why do you think these distinctions? Why do you think we are so different? We're in the same 21st century. We're in the same city, same state, sometimes same household. You see such a difference in life. And that has to do with how you have led your life before or this life, right? I hear that a lot. Even you were born, sometimes even you are a twin sibling. They might be very different than you because how you conducted your life in this life and life before. And that's where this karma has so much influence in us. So practicing precepts, whether it is 5 precepts, sometimes you can try 8 precepts. It is more, actually it's that's actually weight loss technique. If you practice 8 precepts, I'm not kidding. You skip meal afternoon. So the dinners are the heaviest one, right? You observe 5 precepts, there you go. Free weight loss technique. Because you are more diligent, you eat healthy, you will choose better meal. Because you know afternoon you don't eat. So that's the rule for Bhantes, for bhikkhus, that depending on their health, and if you're unwell, of course there is exception, but 8 precepts are good. 10 precepts are much better, makes you humble. So you know 5 precepts. 8 precepts, I'll just add one, where you skip evening food or dinner. That will help you to manage. And the fasting has been, I don't know how much it works now, depending on how you eat, but during, when I was young in Nepal, the food was very filling. And you don't need to eat at night because it's very nutritious. But now it may not be the case. Regardless, if you want to practice more precepts, that's one. And 10 precepts is also for lay people. Sometimes in Sri Lankan temples, they observe 10 precepts during full moon days. That is to humble yourself, to avoid higher seats, to be reflective of how you are sitting in compared to others. So you avoid some of those higher seats and you show respect. Humility brings in. So that's where the precepts are trying to refine how you are. That's one of the qualities you need to have to become Upasaka or Upasika. So the first one is managing and being mindful of your conduct, your physical and your verbal conduct. Are you lying? Are you telling things that is meaningless? And if you can think of that at the beginning of my meditation, I don't know how you experience, as I was guiding at the very beginning, my mind was busy. It was very busy, and that's where I told you, and in my prompt, mind could be very busy. But as I start to speak and focus, as I guide the meditation, I notice huge calmness in myself. It's very easy, and I notice my breathing. So it doesn't take that much to change how we are. So these precepts are like a sort of reminder, how is your conduct? How are you behaving? Right, that's one quality. Second quality is having confidence. And now confidence comes with knowledge. You cannot have confidence without knowledge. In other, like I was born as Hindu in Nepal. My family, they follow all the Hinduism culture. We used to sacrifice, small animals to please the gods. And one thing that really worked for my family, especially my family, was they stopped that. And it actually spread across my distant relatives. They stopped sacrificing. It went down so much. I didn't say anything. I was too young to give them any advice or talks. Just because I became monk, it changed their lifestyle. So they quit slaughtering animals in the name of God. So you may have different origin, but confidence is, in Buddhism, to compare, you have to know who the Buddha is. And I tell, Buddha is like a best friend that you can have. He did not treat everybody in the same way. Like, he wouldn't give talk to everybody the same way. And in compared to other monks, Buddha was way different because he understands the context. You need to know the context. Without knowing the context, you might not be good help. So to develop confidence, we need to know who the Buddha was. And if you have time, read about the Buddha's story, what he did, how he did. And his lifestyle, the way he approached to life, is that what makes us more confident toward him. And one way to know is, how is it changing my life? What can I do in Buddhism that makes my life a little better? Now we discuss about Buddhist teaching, and very simple. Last time we talked about causality, but think of like 8 Noble Paths. People talk about it as if it's something you need to become a monk, you need to wait certain time to bring that 8 Noble Path into your life. That's not necessarily true. If you already follow the precepts, you are already following most of the 8 Noble Paths. Right? If you look at it, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Kammanta, and Ajiva. Those 3. Vacha is the right speech. If you're, how is your speech? Am I hurting others by my word? Am I damaging myself or others by my word? So you're being mindful of that, you're being observant of that, that will change. And Samma Kammanta, right action. What kind of action do you choose? Does your action hurtful or damaging anyone else? And if you already check that, that's already in practice. So eight noble paths are not that far away. And you start with Sammaditthi, as if just like you're having a right vision, right view of life, right view that is more realistic view. And I had a long discussion with my friend, another monk, and Buddhism is taken for granted. It has become a topic for discussion than practice. And I see that, in my many years of being in monastery and being outsider now, I see that sometimes Buddhism is taken for granted just to have intellectual dialogue, just to engage in so-and-so topic, so-and-so ideas, but how is it in your real life? Are you applying any of those precepts, any of those concepts? Like what we did about the loving kindness. Can you really practice that loving kindness, not only when you're sitting and saying those words, but in your action? Can you practice that loving kindness in your word? Can you choose your word carefully so you don't hurt other individuals? You're more compassionate toward others. And that is not easy. That's where you look up to the Buddha. That's where Buddha is our inspiration, right? There were people who tried to hurt Buddha, who tried to murder Buddha so many times. And he didn't have to. Last time I told you a story, who yelled at Buddha with all nasty things. He didn't do the same thing. He was just mindful of it. He didn't take any of them personally. So Buddha is the inspiration when you try to bring these precepts into life. And all this part is, I'm trying to conclude, is how Buddha explained, your mind is your best friend, right? And in two gathas there in Dhammapada, Disang yang tang kaira veri wapana verina. The mind that is untamed or untrained could be as worse as your terrible enemy. Your mind itself is the worst enemy you can have. Disang yang tang kaira veri wapana verina. Micha panitang chitang papyunang tatokare. Because that untrained mind will do so much damage that is worse than an enemy could do to yourself. Now think of that untrained mind. We are following all kind of sensual desires for the temporary satisfaction. That could lead to unhappy and more desire. That is one part. The other part is, if you think of reflecting on life, where I'm at in my journey, and if you're not bringing some of these teachings, some of these readings into life, you're far away from enlightenment. And that's one reason. And we might be taking this life for granted, because being a human born, being born as a human is extremely rare. It's way more valuable than you winning a lottery. You're hitting a jackpot, being a human being, because we can do so much. Even you can aspire to become a Buddha. Only human can do that. Not gods, not animals, no any other beings. Only a human can aspire to become a Buddha. So being human is very valuable. So that's where you try to use that and avoid that your enemy. And the mind that is well trained, samma panitang chittang, natang mata pita kaira anyewa pichanyataka. Not even your parents or your best relatives and friends could be comparable to a well-trained mind, because the benefit that well-trained mind can bring will be far beyond those relatives' support or contribution. So thinking of that, being mindful will help, and that leads to come back to how to become Upasaka. So check your conduct, see if you are violating any of the precepts, or if you can bring more precepts to make your conduct a little more aligned with what Buddha has taught. And also having confidence in the Buddha, looking at him for inspiration, thinking of his life as an inspiration, and training your mind, So that is those are three things that will qualify you to become Upasaka. And I hope this 3 months of rain retreat will inspire you to read more and talk more and learn more about these qualities, and always learn to practice, not learn to discuss. Learn to practice, learn to make your life a little better than yesterday, because that's how you can fill your path toward enlightenment. You're all filling a drop by drop. So hopefully that is a good conclusion, that you are filling a drop by drop to achieve that enlightenment, to the state of enlightenment. So I'll conclude my talk there. I'll take any questions you have. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mind me your name?
Hector.
Hector. Yes,
Thank you
Hector.
very much. Do you have any word of advice? So I took refuge about 3 months ago, and I'm going into the journey of deepening my practice.
Uh-huh.
And when you're a race Catholic, you have the Bible,
Mhm.
page 1, and the page, you can read it, and it's easy. I find that a little bit overwhelming.
Mhm.
Like, what is the right order? Like, where can I go and understand this is the beginning, this is
Mm.
next? Do you have any words of advice about that?
In terms of reading, yes, there is books. I'm not sure how. It might be easy. The one book by What the Buddha Taught by Venerable Walpola Rahula, he explains some of the basic, the fundamental teachings of the Buddha, but more for practice, I like the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada is the best summary of Buddhist preachings. I think I shared 4 of the gathas from Dhammapada. The one I shared about the corrupted mind and the well-trained mind, and you have to do your path. So Dhammapada is really easy, and I suggest to read the Dhammapada gathas. You don't need to go in order. There are 26 chapters. You can choose one, and always read the context, because every time you read the gatha, it's out of context, and you read it like, hatred never sees hatred. Only the love or kindness can seize hatred. You read that, whoa, that's so cool. It's like eternal truth. It's not eternal truth. It's more conditional truth. But it makes sense in the context of the story. So why this was said gives little detail in the story. And you read the story, it becomes almost like a permanent memory of you. And every time you deal with, let's say, back and forth argument, or the challenge that you face. Another part is, how do you forgive someone who is so hateful? People, those are very hard to forgive. And in the same chapter, there's a gatha Buddha explained, when you think of your death, you will forgive anybody. Because what's the point if I'm going to die by holding on to some grudge? So my point is, the gatha with the context helps. So Dhammapada is really, I love Dhammapada gathas, and when we were younger we had to memorize it, and it helps to contextualize some of the Buddha's teaching. And as you learn, you can start reading some of the numerical suttas, and always read the context. Always look for the background story. Otherwise, it's not like Bible. I understand Quran or Bible or Bhagavad Gita. They still need interpretation, but they are almost considered like divine, divine expressions. But Dhammapada is a good place to start. Then you can read some selected suttas. Bhikkhu Bodhi has a collected suttas. That book helps. And again, like I ended the talk, read the suttas to practice, so it helps you, and it helps to, okay, I'm dealing with so much anger, how can I help myself? There is a nice advice, and there's a story you can relate to. I don't know if that could be a good place to start, Hector. Yes. Any other question? Yes, Russell.
I was going to say, it actually helps, they have the Dhammapada, some has illustrations, pictures. I mean, I find find it useful to see the picture as well.
Yes.
Actually, because usually the picture is kind of beautiful, and also they usually have the monks or Buddha or different things related to the story. So maybe it sounds childish, but for me, the words are not enough. I like to see the picture. So they do have the addition to the illustration.
Yeah. As a monk, his name is W. Sarada. He has this, it's a huge book because of the illustration and detailed story. And I think maybe there might be a copy or somewhere here too. So it's a free distributed books. Yes. So how many of you are ready to observe 8 precepts? You can lose some weight.
I can tell you for a fact, not always. One thing I'll add is I am working on getting some free Dhamma books for people to take. Sometimes you'll see on our table right there in the little hallway, there'll be things that, every time you see a book there, you can go ahead and take it. And this was something I was talking about with Venerable Shanti about getting a few things like the Dhammapada and like various translations to have on the table for people to take. So keep your eye out. It might take a couple weeks for the books to get here, but I'm planning on getting some copies of a few things like that. And Dhammapada will certainly be one of those.
And there's several translations of them.
Yes.
And it's always good to look at different translations because you get slightly different perspective
Yes.
on it. And it's really quite wonderful.
My favorite is always the story.
Yeah,
When you read the story, it gives you take you back to the Buddha's time, and you start to identify, oh, some people were nastier than us. You think of compare even the Buddha's time. They were terrible people. They're terrible people, and because of some of those individuals, Buddha gave certain talks, and you can, not with the terrible people, but some topics you can relate to. So that's my challenge, right? And this one, I went to Texas a long time back, almost 10 years now. I was giving in a symposium I was explaining, and one of the nurses asked, how do you deal with death, right? And these nurses who work in net unit, what do you call them? NICU?
Neptune Society.
Yeah, NICU, and they have seen a lot of infant death, and they told that's very hard to bear, even it's not your own child. And I told a story about Kisa Gotami. If you heard of that story, Kisa Gotami, the lady who lost an infant and lost her mind as well, because people die when you're old, not that young. And she was wandering everywhere with this dead body, and Buddha guided her, not in a way like you're being crazy, put that baby down, she's dead. No, Buddha used a very therapeutic approach. He asked her to find some medicine. In sutta and in story it calls mustard seeds, but you think of bring some handful of mustard seeds from a house, and she was ready to get it. But Buddha said, make sure nobody's dead in that house, right? You've heard that story. You know that story. I shared that story, and I can just tell you how uplifted the audience were from that story. And they came and talked to me later. And that's where I love stories. It may seem, like Russell said, oh, stories? Why stories? Well, it gives so much context. And that helped them to wow, never thought that way. It helped them to console themselves. And the title was Death and Dying. So the symposium all was about how do you manage, how do you help people in the process of dying or the experience of death. So stories I always admire, and it helps me to take me back to the Buddha's time and enjoy that little bit of imagination. Yes, Russell.
Sorry, I just had a practical question because a lot of times people are really interested and sometimes get obsessed with all the Buddhist images. And Buddha statues,
Uh-huh.
images, and you go to the temple and you're kind of surrounded by them, or people get really, I was wondering, things like all the statues and images and pictures, how do you prevent yourself from getting a little bit addicted to them or too overly involved? Because they're kind of, you see them and anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially a lot of the Asian temples.
Yes.
They have all these like hundreds of statues,
Yes.
and Buddhas and helpers and like the Shirai temple. or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, as a lay person, are they useful to focus on, or how do you prevent yourself from getting too involved with them?
Well, there's a nice answer to that from Buddha's last teaching, Parinibbana Sutta. This was the teaching. It's a compilation of Buddha's last 3 months period. Really nice. It makes you emotional when you read that. In one situation, Venerable Ananda, the attendant, asked the Buddha, how should we treat your body? And there was a very specific instruction what to do. And the gist of that instruction was you use those objects as veneration, not as a way to, ego or establish, oh, this is my statue, this is our statue, we have 100 statues, you have only 99, ha ha ha. No, that's not the point. The point is veneration. And there are 3 objects, not just a statue. There's a pagodas, that was like defined as a way to respect the Buddha. You can have pagodas, you can have the Bodhi tree, and you can have the picture or statues. Now, original, how Buddha looked like, nobody seen, and nobody drew the Buddha. Only one way to know is there's a sutta called 32 characters of the Buddha. When you read the sutta, and I have seen some people try to portray using those 32 characters into how it might look like. It looks scary. Imagine 40 teeth and jaw like lion. All the fingers are equal in length that reach all the way to your knee. Flat foot. So when you read the characters, you're imagining, right? It's scary. You don't want to see that. So people had to do imagination. And every time you read those suttas, there's a lot of influence from Greek artists during the time, 8th century in Sri Lanka, it's 7th century in India. There's a cave, Ajanta Ellora. The caves has a great art, great statues, and I have drawn a couple of them. I love drawing with the statues. I've drawn many versions of it. Sri Lankan has a different version. You go to Nepal, that's a different version. Doesn't matter. I think what I like to see is a Buddha inside us through understanding of his life story, understanding his teaching. That is unique to you. The external, those portraits, pagodas, those things, we should be cautious to put too much value on it, right? Because Buddha never like when you read some of the suttas, the Buddha, there are 2 trends. People, those who are very traditional, they want to preserve some of those practice, like offering whole bunch of fruits and flowers and all that. If you do that out of respect, that's one thing. If you do that out of a little bit of maybe not nice of me, I have seen people get carried away by those external factors. Make sure that you have 32 flowers, not 31. And if there is one missing, people lose their mind. This is real. It happened. I used to be in temple, and I used to attend those devotees, people, those who come and decorate the stage. And you need to make sure you wash the Buddha with milk. Like, I don't think Buddha will like that. People do that. And in Nepal, it's worse. In Nepal, they put the red paint. You just look up Nepalese Buddha statues in town. In my town, we have at least 8,000 temples. So every temple, the Buddha is abused really bad. Not out of disrespect. That's how they treat. They throw rice on the Buddha. They put paint on the Buddha. You light candle around the Buddha. And when I give talk in Nepal a long time back, I used to tell him, can you be in the Buddha's place and let me do those things to you? In the winter, I'm going to pour water because I'm cleaning your face. I'm going to throw rice on your face. I'm going to put a whole bunch of red paint on you. So you're not going to like it, right? We need to be a little more logical and think the actual purpose of having statues. It's for respect. It's a symbol. And if you don't have any, imagine, know the stories, know his life. That will be your statue. So it's good to have those symbols because it helps us to identify, but not too carried away by those identities.
Okay.
Yes, so what about the Dhamma behind Dhamma talk? Is that confirmed?
Yeah, that's confirmed for the
Yeah,
fourth
yeah.
Sunday. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's let me check the date on it.
Thank you, Sai. Any other questions? We will chant pages 4 and page 10. Nam, can you do the Mokujo? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. When ye do kunga do ukfoka unyat te enyaida du chunga shange e aikon tan pat dao. When ye do kunga do ukfoka unyate enyaidang du chunga shange e aikon alpha thou. When ye do ukfoka unyate enyaidang du chunga shange e aikon alpha. Om mani Pad Me Om. Thank you. Next week, Sabota is giving a Dharma talk, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. And now we have tea and cookies.
A couple more announcements first,
Please.
if that's okay. So our monthly meditation is going to be switching over to the third Sunday of the month. So we will be meeting next week, 9:30 to 10:30. And then from then on out, we'll be meeting on the third Sunday instead of the first Sunday. I will be giving a Dharma talk as well on that day. And then the following week, Venerable Sanata Bihari will be giving a Dharma talk. He's the kind Mexican-American monk that some of you have already met before. And so he has very kindly agreed to give us a talk this month. So if you can, make sure you can attend that week as well. Thank you.
Thank you, that's wonderful news. May you all be well and happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
3 months, you're on the hook to become Upasakas.
Yeah. Last starts Sunday next week. So, yeah.